I hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm going to assume I'll look for a thumbs up on the meeting. Is everyone able to hear me? Okay, got a thumbs up. Okay, so we're going to talk about zero trust in DevOps, your workstation. So my little hot take here. First, disclaimer, views and opinions are my own. They don't reflect employers, past employers, future employers, none of that. Nothing is a warranty to accuracy. This is part of my academic research, so take it that vein at the moment. Product company references. I will talk about some, mainly just because they were examples of a case that things that are happening right now. It's not an endorsement or any type of condemnation about the company or the situation. It just helps to have some illustrative purposes. And then this is, of course, not professional advice, and it seems the rest of it. This is shared. The last line here says this is for information sharing, has a little license tag, free to use. Do with what you may, roast me, whichever you'd like to do. So the premise here, we built a modern developer ecosystem on implicit trust, like a lot of things. npm install, trust the registry, VS Code, trust marketplaces. We love pasting curl bash, and our coding agent is trusted as well because they run just as you, our fellow engineers and developers. And we keep adding complexity. We keep adding increases to the velocity. 1.5 billion was lost in one event from one laptop. When I saw this in my research come up, I didn't believe this number. What was even shocking, I didn't believe that this was last February, just over a year ago. There's an FBI warrant out for the case. If you can get access to the Ethereum wallets, if you're a hacker at that level, FBI wants to talk to you. Sorry, I need to move something here. I don't know how that disappears. Sorry, I'm having a slight problem with the no, it's the Zoom controls are overlaying on top of my content, so I can't actually see what's going on. Next was another touch point is I did a little bit of mapping and looked at all the supply chain events 2000 starting 2021 to just up to 2026. Basically 81% of those events had some element that touched your laptop in that. It was part of the exploit chain. It wasn't always the principal piece, but it was involved in that chain. This was over 32 different incidents, and the tempo is increasing. So the $5 billion laptop, this is what I call the Daniel Ocean's 15 version, basically went through, got one guy's laptop, got credential tokens, laterally moved, less than a month, was able to actually mutate and augment the transaction UI to cause the transfers, which cost the money. One laptop. The worm that fed itself, we all are familiar with Shailun and Shailun second coming, third coming. This is still ongoing. A little adventure that we all keep seeing pop up every few months and variations. The costs here estimates, I do call this out in my research paper. Some of these where I could not find direct costs, these are, I'm estimating man hours, total impact, times changed, somewhere between 25 and $75 million of investment cost impacting from this event so far to date. The cascade, this I had to throw in at the last minute. And when I started this presentation, I thought this was going to be a little boring subject, nothing relevant. I was thinking more about Shailun and all the things there. And last week, while at RSA, this serves up another event. Right now, projecting on the low end somewhere, this is going to cost about 40 million in total response, direct and indirect, all of us downstream, all the hours we're doing to try to mitigate those items. And this is still ongoing. I didn't even have time to get the last event from the 27th up here. I felt like last night as I was finishing this feels like, we're kung fu fighting left and right as things are coming out. But this one at least had a CVE associated, so we can actually check that off for all our compliance folks that we've touched and mitigated. I'm going to move this slightly over. So here's the exercise portion, and I'm going to trust everyone online is actually going to do this activity as well. So everyone hands up in the room, and there's no camera, so no one's going to judge. Hands up. Just one. This is a survey because I couldn't get Zoom polls to work. Okay, put your hand down if you didn't do this. Sorry, keep your hand up if you did this. Let's just keep it simple. Keep your hand up if you've done this activity. Never have I ever. Yeah. Are you running npm without checking? ID extensions, they're set to auto update no matter what tool you're using. You have credentials on your laptop. I challenge you, sir. I bet you do. These are all the conditions that led to those storyline breaches and many others just like it. So your endpoints are in the same boat as everyone else. So this can happen to you. So just giving a few other top numbers, just to tie it up, 23 incidents tracked since October 21st to this month here. Total financial impact, somewhere just shy of 2 billion, 200, almost 3 billion. Biggest one, obviously skewed by one big event, but it's there. And the more important one is the 10x increase in tempo of these events happening year over year. We've been noticed, ladies and gentlemen, and others, that this is happening and it's happening faster. So I'm hoping through the rest of this presentation, there's 3 assumptions I'll get you to no longer hold. Supply chain attacks, target is a pipeline, not the developer. Not true. We've seen that in the numbers already start to show up. We see this in other tools like, Glassworm going through ID extensions, OpenClaw. Network is the quintessential case. Running OpenClaw, whether it's your main workstation or a secondary. Trusted tools can be trusted. We all got punched in the face this week. This kind of reiterated this. Trivy, Kix, tools that we know and love have become something that we now have to second guess and take with a little grain of salt, even closer. The fake Claude Code campaign that went on just from sponsor results. Can't trust what Google, well, if you did trust what search results were sending you, here you get what you get. But again, implicit trust. So this is slow moving. We'll eventually get around to this. Well, the tempo is showing we can't. This year, we're at 2.7 incidents per month. This is before I added the 4th incident. So we're probably almost now to 3 incidents per month happening right in our radar right now. So our window to act is closing. So one of the things I wanted to bring to this, and this is why the title of the meeting was about zero trust. I was very heavily influenced by Kindervag's work and some of the folks associated with his work. And I want to bring this mapping style and this rubric to how we approach endpoints, developer endpoints, as a surface to protect. So if those of you are not familiar with John Kindervag's work, zero trust, I'm going to just remember it's a strategy. It's not a product. Whatever a vendor tells you, it's not a product. It's a strategy. And George Finney, it's a process of things you have to do. And quintessential to this process is the 5-step methodology. You're going to define a protect surface. You're going to map the flows to that protect surface. You're going to look at the architecture and what the controls do for it. You're going to create policy, what's allowed, what's denied, what are you aiming towards? And then you're going to monitor and maintain it and continuously verifying. This is a process that we have to apply. A lot of us are familiar. The folks that are doing large IT or network where zero trust really caught fire are doing this in the networking world. We need to apply this methodology into the endpoint, and particularly the developer endpoint. So the DAS, that's the acronym here, data, application, assets, and services. That's what you're trying to capture on your protect surface. My conjecture here is the developer workstation is that protect surface. It holds data. It's your secrets, your IP, your company IP. Sometimes if you're machine learning or AI, you've got data because you're doing training work or you're testing with samples of data, hopefully synthesized, but could be real data. Depends on your application. It's running a series of ecosystem applications that some of them have unfettered access to the internet, that egress problem. It is the asset itself. It's valuable. How much would you each be impacted, or your company, if you lost full control of your endpoint? And then it's connected to very sensitive services downstream. And just to iterate, I know this is all being cut off, and I do apologize for overloading the slide. Just to make sure this is not about not trusting developers. I am a developer. I came from that world and ecosystem. But zero trust is really about verifying every transaction that crosses. Every time you cross a trust boundary, making sure you're checking and validating that. So just to bring back, I'll just skip past this because I kind of hit it on the slide. The DAS model applied to the workstation. These slides will be available. But the piece that, oh, good, you can see on the bottom, we all think about compromise of every use case. What happens to the finance team's laptop? What happens when a developer laptop is compromised? In one case, $1.5 billion. We need to start thinking about these as just as valuable or maybe more, because those can be connected to all those boundaries. I see a lot of folks that will say DevOps engineer is just equivalent to root access in a lot of organizations because they have so much. Well, the way I want to look at this for the rest of the presentation is looking at boundaries, trust boundaries, four of them in particular. Please do not beat me up, and you can start challenging me on pieces. This is meant to be interactive. Hopefully I'll try to repeat the questions if you ask them in the group. But four of them I want to focus on, and I'm focusing on them just from the endpoint lens. There is a ways to look at these same pieces from other perspectives. So just always anchor to the endpoint. It's actually hard to do research because so much of the evidence is in one area, but you always have to anchor it back to the protect surface and how it's applicable. So the four I want to cover: packages, registries, ID extensions, which are kind of a form of another external registry, but have some specific cases, direct install campaigns against us. And of course, you can't get into a talk without talking about AI. So D is there as well, because it is starting to be very surprising what that flow covers. So package flows, I'll stay marriage to the quick text diagram here for everyone. You got your npm registry, pi registry, installs, also executes, unless you've done some work. Workstation can hit the workstation, can hit local artifacts, can hit anything else. Also can trigger things that happen in that build workflow. If your build workflows are using agentic, that can get even more powerful what you're influencing, sending into those instructions. Attacks that have directly come from those, Shine Loom, Phantom Raven, Light LLM from this last week, all hit local workstations. Like Light LLM hit through, it was detected by a cursor tester who was validating what the MCP hooks in cursor were. All hit that endpoint. Some of the tactics that are being used is of course, breach publication, maintainers just grabbing credentials, pulling malicious versions of packages, typo squatting, slop squatting, which is always fun now, dependency confusion, phantom packages. Each one of our ecosystems has been hit. There's no one's better than anyone else. A lot of this is falling back on the maintainers of these communities, who are sometimes volunteers, sometimes are commercially backed, but now they're becoming the full brunt of people's attention or attackers' attention. Flow B, ID extension marketplaces. So this is the most prominent is your Microsoft Visual Studio marketplace, OpenVSX, which goes with the third-party containers. You now have another marketplace for someone to go drop information. We all know how well third-party app stores worked in the mobile ecosystem and how much great value. Some don't beat me up on the privacy and integrity parts of it, but there's some interesting things that happen in those ecosystems. Our IDs are now hooked directly to that and are participating with auto update, the ID process pulling down with full user privileges, system reads, harvesting. How many times when your IDE or tool says, "Can I do this?" do you say no? It's pretty much pulling everything up or launching sub-processes in the background. Glassworm took advantage of this, TigerJack, Octorat, all were recent attacks in the last 4 years that took advantage of this surface and this flow. Numbers, this one is actually up 289% year over year. So this comes right from Reversing Labs. We know locally, and we know a lot of guys working over there. Heavy increase, 403 components compromised just by the Glassworm event, and secrets leaked. Actually, I need to update that number because I think the number that's coming out of the Team PCP events, I think they're talking their secrets leaks in the order of gigabytes or terabytes right now. So this number has been blown out of the water. Direct install campaigns. This one really hurts because this is as much a human element and a phishing and social manipulation element. How many of us cut paste? We go to a technical page, it says cut paste and do this to install, do this to configure. They even have the little copy button built into the web pages. This used to be things that people were just getting attacked for other phishing reasons. Now, as we saw with the recent Claude install fix campaign, they're weaponizing our ecosystems, the ways we practice and be efficient. We just didn't think people cared about this vector. Now they're just tampering the web page, altering it any way they can. This includes through your JavaScript plugins into your browser. So all your Chrome extensions, IE extensions, all those, they can manipulate what that text is on that page. So we have install fix pattern comes in two variants. Install fix search engine results, basically hijacking an ad account, cloning page, making it look exactly like it. Payload executes behind the scenes. That was the recent Claude code or Clad code incident. Social engineering, this comes LinkedIn, email, fake recruiter scams. Fake recruiter scams have become the biggest ones in this area. Malicious repos, that's been fun. One download for that, the ByteBit one was one download in a Docker image. That was the source of that. We all scan those Docker images, right? We all inspect them before we fire them up. Yeah, please do. And then README docs, they're including them as well. D, agent and skill surfaces. I wanted to avoid this because this starts to get really muddy, but it's coming up. The new skills ecosystems, these are just like the package ecosystems all over again. Worse, they're harder to scan because it's text and you've got to figure out the intent of the text and how it's assembled. Sometimes it's not transparent how that text will be recombined. So skills.sh, skills MPE, OpenClaw, these are all ecosystems that are good efforts, but they're following the same victim that all the package managers are. How much effort is going to go to maintain it? Sneak did a report on toxic skills audit. I think it's very important to note. Already, I think the skills audit came shortly after the skills.sh ecosystem came out. Within days, 13% critical issues being found in that Sneak toxic report. Any severity was 36%. The skills have issues. Now, these are not all malicious. These can be just risky combinations of skills or instructions in those skills. So don't think immediately malicious, but they create a vector for bad outcomes. Particularly skills, I may show one a little bit, but one skill that you look at the scoring, you look at what it finds in it, and it's not one thing, it's the combination of things that can be orchestrated together in a chain to basically get malicious instructions, tamper your memory, and then you're poisoned. Your endpoint is now poisoned to the attacker. This comes very much also for the agentic worker, calling out to MCP to get instructions, tool poisoning coming back, the MCP server starts giving bad directions, this is your prompt injection flow, but now it's on your laptop with your permissions. And they're going to reconfigure. I don't know if anyone's noticed, Claude can reconfigure itself very easily if you don't do some work. So this is a new vector. So it's the newest on the scene. Audits exist, but the big piece is that there's no guardrails. Just like every other ecosystem, we're left to assemble the guardrails ourselves. As much good intention as being put into the audit pieces, the guardrails still fall on us. There's no kind of safe piece there. So I'll jump past this. We kind of covered on the last slide. 4 flows, registries, IDEs, direct install, agent skills. So what trust assumptions? There's no verification in the packages, in the registries. Providence, behavior before execution, not checked. So we're trusting what's coming down. The IDE marketplace, there's no real sandboxing. Most of the time you've clicked past the permissions that open it up for your whole environment. Allow listing, it's on your own ability to create an allow list or deny list. Nothing's built into the marketplace for the tools very easily to do this. There's some efforts to try, but they fall short of what's needed. And again, runs with your privilege. Direct install, it's on the page. It exploits our trust in our ecosystem behavior and our conventional behaviors. And then agents really know it's what is, whatever it can try to execute, it will try to execute. It pretty much runs as you. So if you're very open to risk, it won't bother you. If you're working in an area that's sensitive, it's of a concern for us. So what do we do Monday morning? It's always Monday. Every week's new. So next piece, I'm going to throw a few tactics that hopefully you can take away from this, things you can think about doing in your organization. But before we go to the tactics, principles first. Don't know if anyone's read Rick Howard. I really enjoyed his book. It was Security First Principles. His underlying thesis is we don't really have a good universal set of principles to agree on. We all have our own interpretations. But having these principles first before we dive into, into strategy and tactics, I like this framework. So I'm pulling heavily on his what he calls cyber first principles. Those are reduce the probability of a material cyber event. That's my first top order principle of any security program. It's not to save everyone, make it risk adverse. It's reduce the probability of an event happening. Intrusion kill chain prevention. If I can do some tactic that makes it harder, puts more friction into the process, slows down, stops, it'll minimize the impact. Zero trust architecture. This is pretty much isolate, validate anytime something crosses a boundary and needs access. And then resilience. This is the monitoring. Monitoring your environment, know what your dependencies are, know what's in your environment, and continuously audit for that. I'll jump ahead. The audit piece is really important because some of the things you'll discover is these audits are point in time when a package was deployed and never scanned again, never checked if it ever mutates or its integrity. So the audit portion is extremely important. Throw up some example statements you might want to throw into some of your documents. Again, don't roast me. These are my policies that I set up. For those in the room that love to have a controls mapping, I'll pause for a few seconds if you want to do a quick controls walk. Here's the 8 techniques I'm going to talk about, mapped across the NIST SSDF, which is the Secure Development Framework, the OWASP, I've already lost the acronym, the Secure Component Verification Standards, thank you, and the OWASP Secure Pipeline Verification Standards and its phases, and then Zero Trust Pillars to focus on. No, honestly, I had to drop off some off my crosswalk. For everyone who's not seeing this, someone's asking a question. Yes, no, come see me. You can look at my secure controls framework, unified control framework crosswalk. I think right now I haven't found a printer that it will print on at this point. But I love it. I love being able to filter and it lights up and it works so well for me. But maturity spectrum, the other piece before I talk about it, I broke the calls to action into 4 levels. And I really called this out where you have to point to where you have agency, where you can start acting, where you can sometimes do forgiveness versus permission, but then also showing how this matures out to have a good, just these simple tactics, not a whole controls framework, just these where you will make a material improvement in your posture. So secrets management. This is also parts where I will talk about products. I'm not endorsing a particular one. It's the one I know best, but I know other tools will do this. So secrets management, kill all the clear text. Even myself, and Cameron, this is why I was like, I don't believe you when you say you don't have secrets. I ran Truffle Hog last night. I am insane about this. I still found 120 secrets that other tools were throwing in. A lot of these were JOT tokens that tools were incorporating, creating, and storing. But then when I tested the JOT and the actual endpoints accepting those JOT tokens, they had no pinning. I could use it. I could move it from a different device. I could take it and use it anywhere. So basically, I have a clear text token that someone can act as me somewhere else, just harvest it up. But still injecting, using 1Password or a tool similar that injects right at runtime. That's what the OP run injects at runtime and also wraps the process to also prevent output of any of those secrets. You can do this on your own. There are free tools out there. There's commercial tools like 1Password. Do this fast on everything. This is your first line there's nothing there to harvest. You will get nothing but references to my vaults. Great. There's your first start. I'm not going to dive into 3 and 4 on a lot of these. I'm going to stay on 2. So the team, get your team in sync of how this works for shared credentials, shared processes. Put these conventions down, start training it from day one. Every team I've gone to looked at me like, oh my God, no way, no, no, no. When we walk through it, within 2 weeks, they're doing it. And now with AI tools, this was before the AI tools became popular, they're able to just spin it up as a template as every repo, every new thing picks up. It's a rule. It just starts going with it. And rely on your hooks across the board to help enforce this. Package pinning. This is painful. This is actually one of the posts meeting, I'll be releasing my package pinning scripts for my ecosystems. I encourage anybody else to start sharing. Team PCP has made this hugely relevant. We can't ignore this anymore. Package pinning, and also for the package management ecosystems that execute scripts, which include NPM is a big one. Your Visual Studio Code, unless configured properly, will also run a task upon load of a repository. That's why it gives that really vague message. Do you trust this? It's not telling you is I will follow any instructions this repository says. So package pinning, lock files, integrity hashes, constantly checking for mutations. It's hard to do. You need to do it through automation. But this also, Team PCP events didn't get hit. I had Trivy, I had kicks. All mine were pinned. None of mine were impacted by this. The only one that wasn't pinned was my homebrew package manager on my laptop. So that's my next project for the week. Another great one, I'm going to throw out some tools. Socket Firewall. There's like 3 or 4 products that do this. Socket, safety, package firewalls. Go after them. Some of them are real simple. You can do an endpoint. Some of these are free. Akito, sorry, James. Akito has one, SafeChain. It's free. It will do some effort to help reduce this risk down of you pulling packages that have malicious content or have been flagged as potentially malicious. There are free versions. There are commercial versions. That L2 one is the next biggest vector to knock out. ID extensions allow listing. Unfortunately, you need to get your team on board, you need to get IT on board, and you need to start preventing the install of these on your own. I haven't found a better solution yet. I haven't found an automated hook. I found automations, which I have scripts for if you're an OS query person, how to detect what you have and where it's coming from and the integrity of it. But you need to figure this out real quick. It surprises me. It's an IDE. You'd think desktop teams and endpoint teams would be a little bit more sensitive to this, but it's just like browser plugins. People are pretty much YOLOing it, whatever they want to install. Some organizations, now I forgot the name of the company in town that does this for browser extensions. We need to do the same thing here for our ID extensions and start aggressively pursuing this. And this really, when you see it leveling up, this is where the IT partner and their detection tools, because prevention tools might not be there, but the detect and act and respond very heavily involved here. Binary authorization. Has anyone ever tried this before? No? SantaDev, anyone hear about that? SantaDev out of Google. There is a great paper on Figma's application of this. It does it on Mac. There is an equivalent tool for Linux, AppLocker for Windows. If you follow a community source pattern where your team is helping source what's reasonable and giving reaction, it takes a little of the pressure off the IT team, particularly your DevOps or your your developer program team. If you put that collaborative process together, it doesn't feel as much like what traditional IT would kind of bake and install an image nightly. You can get a faster flow and reduce this friction. But this is what stops. This is your rules here aren't just a particular binary hash, but it's also a binary in an unexpected directory. Because a lot of these tool chains the exploits are downloading things and putting them into your environment on you. This one's also a little easy, but hard to swallow at first. Running without standing admin privileges. Jamf has plugins for this. SAP has a tool, particularly, and I'm sorry, it's Mac ecosystem. I didn't find the one for Windows, but it's Mac OS Enterprise Privileges. You can run this without having an enterprise or MDM environment. You're just basically saying my primary user on my laptop is not admin, and I have to request, which really blocks down, like even things trying to trigger sudo and trying to get you to click or get you to put your biometric. If you're not in the mode where it can do those activities, some of your areas are safer. Someone's looking at me with, go for it.
Just jumps out at me. I mean, the other ones, it seems like they're surprising, and then it seems like it's harder to sort of limit those. This seems like, isn't everybody already doing this? Like, it would shock me that we have people that are running root access on a regular basis.
A lot of orgs have a lot of reasons. They just either get worn down, developers throw productivity issues up. They don't create solutions. I know my customers are mainly in mid-market and startups. they're not doing these things. If you're in a financial sector, you're doing them and making those available, but not everyone. Sarah?
Well, and it comes down to risk appetite. So if the business has a low risk appetite, like they're a nonprofit or they work in the finance sector, then they're going to allocate time for these maturity practices. But if they're a startup or they otherwise have a high risk appetite, 1.5 billion might not seem like that big of an issue.
One of the things that, this tactic, I had to believe it. An IT admin brought it to me 4 years ago at a company. I was the other side of this. I was like, no, I can't stop the development. There's too much in the tool chain. He made me live it for a month. After about the first week, I stopped noticing. I realized I didn't need it as much as I thought I needed it. So it is possible to do it. Again, you can't do these in silos unless you're at the solo level, but getting across to a team, you do need to bring consensus along, like any security initiative needs to have that. But I'll tell you, running without roots, so many things are blocked and require attention. And it starts to go into a whole nother mindset, not just click no. I can't even click no unless I've explicitly taken action to ask for those privileges. They get logged. My laptop now goes into mode, which throws off to my SIM why I did that activity. So I can look at, was it reasonable or unreasonable? Helps you know what's going on in your environment. So I highly encourage this one. Again, this one from SAP, it's free. They donated it. Any organization can use it. In the back.
The biggest problem I think is when you're using platforms or tools that don't have fine-grained access control. Like they have it, you're either an admin or you're a user or whatever. And it, like what I always say to that is either find an alternative that gives you better access controls or don't use it.
So not to shamelessly plug, but my take on the Stryker incident, I have 2 papers coming out. Some people in this room have reviewed them ahead of time. Talks directly to that issue, but I'm going to delay that because that's the operating system makes it a little bit harder to do. There's user and super user. Trying to put some segmentation and partitioning, highly agree. It's a little bit harder. I'm encouraging folks just to start at the basics. Just don't run as admin. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I know. They do, and they lump things together. I'm going to shamelessly plug my blog posts that are coming next week on this. Build for safety. I'll just jump in. Everyone needs to start thinking about building for safety. I'm a product security person. That's the first thing I influence on my teams. Build your setup for safety, not for having complex maps I have to navigate. When I'm mature enough to be complex, let me open up those processes. So I'll leave it at that because I could go hours on the cloud, back to the laptop. Ephemeral containerization environments. Who here knows what dev containers are? Who here is using them every day? I go open Claude crazy. I go everything open Claude. I let it go crazy because it's inside of a containerized environment with sandboxing rules, tightened. It never can pop out. It's allowed me to 10x my performance because I know I put it in a box. I know I may shoot myself in the foot later by that, but it'll eventually get out. But right now, limiting that blast radius, particularly if there's no credentials to harvest, you've containerized your development ecosystem, which has one level of privilege and behavior, from your endpoint that has another general privilege. And if you're able to put things into smaller segmentations, it's easier to manage these problems. So I highly encourage taking a look at these ephemeral containers, creating sandboxes. You can still access and share certain files, but you're being very specific. Hey, it's this directory. That's it. You can't walk the rest of the tree. You can't navigate back. It blocks. And then the things inside the container, you've locked them. You can't change them. They're essentially immutable. Now you do have to change them. You have to do a whole build process and make alterations, but now you're being very deliberate and very aware of what tools you're using, how you're using them, what versions you're using. This solves my homebrew problem heavily. Not on my main operating system, but my containers. I know exactly what package I'm using of what tool. So highly encourage, test it out, try it out. Also has a nice piece that you can go to the web. Like if you're a GitHub user, you build your container right, it can be dual purpose to the web. So you can access your same project from your laptop to a restricted container, also online and live coding. So very helpful for workflow efficiency if you just have to change something really fast. This one I left on here, but I'm not going to talk heavy about, but it's the sandbox builds of everything. Have your salsa, have your SBOM. Mainly it's having that SBOM so that you can do fast research. You can throw it into your engines, you can throw it into your AI tools to help you identify what's going on. But I'm not going to go too deep on this one. I kind of debated, this kind of crosses that line from what's on the endpoint to what's building your product. I need to get a little bit better with this messaging, but I left it here for the slides for those to see as part of the guardrails. And then one more thing, because of course, AI. So it's the AI runtime guardrails. And this, I actually just came across a gentleman out at SysDig, their field CISO, introduced this on a completely adjacent call. There are more than Code Agents Kit. Happy to share the link to it. It's published less than a week ago. Basically, this is the Falco engine. I have it running on my dev container. So I'm monitoring every system call that dev container is doing. This also, they have a GitHub action that's also monitoring every system call your GitHub actions are doing. And you can look for anomalies. On the container version, the local and the agent that plugs right in, this Code Agents Kit, plugs right into the hooks in your coding tools. Claude Code has a hooks lifecycle if you're not aware of it. Injects all those Falco rules. If you're not familiar, it's one of the best set of rules out there. You can write your own and extend it. You can inject these right into your Claude Code toolkit. Now I run Claude Code. If we have a little time at the end, I'll show you my trail. It's constantly going, tells me what's allowed, denied, every process, every piece, what it's touching, what strings of commands are together. If you can express it in regex or get your AI to express it, you can basically build a rule that will try to stop bad outcomes, chaining of tools from happening. And it happens right there in the agents ecosystem. Very brand new. There are some other commercial tools I've seen doing this as well. This one is free. Encourage you, solo, play with it, get used to writing rules and expressing what your risk appetite is and what you want your tools to do and not do in there. Ones that kind of come in there is like banished directories. If you help F11, I'm not sure what that means.
That's not your screen.
Let's see if that works. Nope. I have that, Bill, I have that hotkeyed. I'm sorry. Not my usual setup. So I apologize, Bill. Everyone's gonna be internet famous with the piece. And I know it's probably cutting off some things on the slides. So wrapping this up, why is the surface getting overlooked? Function F11, I think I'm okay with. I went through a risk analysis process. A slippery slope there. I did not R command copy paste into PowerShell, though I do have PowerShell in this environment. Why? This falls between organizational boundaries. I spoke with a lot of CISOs on this topic, a lot of heads of IT. There's this boundary between this, if you talk to IT, they say our responsibility is securing the endpoint. Then you talk about developers and what they need. Platform team covers CI/CD, they cover cloud. And you start drilling in, it's like, well, who owns the decisions that developer teams are making every day? Some organizations have this buttoned up very heavy. A lot of organizations, no one approaches it. We don't have enough time, enough problems. It's so low on the stack of things that they have to operate in. And a lot of the IT teams doing it don't come from a developer's background. And this stuff is immensely complex to think through. So you have to have this partnership and engagement. And ultimately, you have to get somebody to own responsibility for the development tool chain. Just like you would have an AI, governance group, who is the head of your AI, your development tool chain, and allowing these decisions on your risk. The implicit trust, it's pretty much invisible until it happens. The trivia exploit shows us that. And then AI tools, of course, are accelerating the problem. Go ahead, sir.
Also working with two enterprise SOC teams, the skill set is very different. The enterprise teams will typically not touch because it's within their infrastructure knowledge. They don't have an idea of how to look at application level, let alone AI level, security level events. So when you ask them to take a look at WAF analytics, they don't know how to take a look at WAF analytics because they're on SIEM or Sentinel or Splunk. And when they were trained up, they weren't trained up to look at application. They were trained to look at infrastructure like most IT folks.
Yep. It's a knowledge gap and we haven't partnered up on our side. Developers have not really, because no one's brought it as an issue, something that needs to hold and have responsibility in that governance model, own it at a governance level, because that's the only place. You can't just have the developers or DevOps doing this as a interesting experimentation or just a productivity project. You have to have it owned at a governance level if for your organization's risk level. Obviously, if you're really open to it, great. But if you need to worry about your reputation, Stryker is a great case. What can go wrong when some of these areas of blind trust happen, on these misses? So highly encourage. So it's getting richer every day, not safer. There's no safe standard. No, this is an industry problem, not just to this. So if you do need to advocate for the time, I want to throw up a slide real quick. What do you get from this? If you have to make a pitch up to your security team, financials, product managers, what are some of the outcomes that come from doing these activities? What can you trace to make a case to spend some time on this? Security outcomes, obviously kill chain disruption. Your threat hunters in your company will love you if you start talking this way. Credentials harvesting, blocking, great. They're going to love that. Bill, you just want to be a rock star. By the time I see it, I'm more getting everyone else's reaction. Come on, Bill. I don't know if Bill's just gaming Zoom at this point, but let's just go with it. And the standing admin privilege, if you can remove that, I think you'll make security employee of the year. The security team will nominate you. Financial risk, obviously, there's some numbers you can take here. I have about 50 pages of research if you want to follow up with me after. This is, again, don't steal my master's work and publish it yourself and smash me, but happy to share it if you want. Yeah, before Tuesday. What, the insurance posture? Oh yeah, yeah. If you're that's been a big one. My agent took me through the ringer, and they actually went through all my controls and evidence this time. But all great ones, talking points. These are meant to be talking points to get leadership, either your direct managers or senior leadership on board. Why this is important to touch. I think that's one thing we don't kind of connect at the end. Why? So I wanted to just throw some messages you can steal and work. If you need some help in your organization, obviously it's different. Chat with me. I will help you come up with the right wording to help connect to your organization. May ask you to sign an NDA, just so we're all good, but definitely this we need to solve. And then obviously productivity, less work on emergencies, faster onboarding. That dev container and some of this toolkit standardization, you get people up to speed faster, like day one. There's no set up their development environment. It's just launch the repository and all your tool chain comes with it. And they're using the exact tool chain the rest of your team is using. Oh my gosh, no more, really reduces work on my machine. Bill's loving it. Bill, we're going to talk more. Faster onboarding, definitely. Less context switching for incident response, and you have more confidence in your tools, not like, what did you do? So Monday morning checklist. Obviously, I'm using some times here from AI. Yes, Scott. I can't even touch that screen to turn off the things. Gave you some time examples, what it took me to do. And yes, I was using Claude to help recommend what the configurations were, but just knowing what's on your surface, get Trufflehog, get leaks, run it, look at what you actually have on there. You'll be surprised how much is actually exposed in there. Move those secrets into 1Password or some tool with it. Use the command line interface. Pretty much now, even my SSH secrets are in there. It does a call out. I have to multi-factor biometrically authenticate every time I commit something to GitHub. It will not, no automated process can just use a credential. For the NPM Node.js audience, get that ignore scripts in there. That's a huge vector. It's so easy to just stop. That was the other team. Socket, safety, and safety chain. They all have free tiers. You can put these proxies in. It will start giving you recommendations. It can be as simple as this package is bad to this package is not approved. You can't pull it down onto your endpoint. Depends how hard you want to go at it. Audit your ID extensions. I have at the end of this presentation examples. If you're not familiar with OS query, I've done validated queries that let you pull skills and extensions and give you an idea of what they are, what their hashes are, and you can start getting an idea of what you actually have deployed down on your environment. This is so hidden in text files all over. I encourage you to do an audit and see if it makes sense what you have. And if any of that's been flagged by Sneak or others in those malicious or riskier tools, particularly in the skills inventories. Deploy Santa Dev, put it in monitoring mode, takes about an hour. Look at this will tell you what your tools are calling, what you're actually using on a regular basis. This helps make a better picture of what you want to lock down rather than, I don't know what my computer is doing. Santa Dev's logs will tell you if you're on the Mac. FA Policy D will tell you on Linux. If you're doing containerized Docker containers, FA Policy. And then set up dev containers for your high risk projects. There are some tool chains that this is hard to do with. If it's not high risk, I don't encourage that to start. Pick your highest risk projects. And funny enough, some of the biggest high risk ones I look at are ones dealing with infrastructure, Terraform, IOC automations, because the bad outcomes that can happen in those environments, you can tear down your whole ecosystem in a matter of minutes. Then start looking at your more sensitive application. And then I do encourage CoGit Agents tool. It's a great free tool. It starts you realizing what your agent can do and not do, and you can start saying rules. So total time here, this is probably about 2 days of effort. Spread it out, but you can do it. It's simple. You can probably do it faster now that Opus has been updated. So key takeaway, question isn't whether it's already happened to you. Question is whether you're building an architecture that helps contain it. I'll take other questions. Here's about me, if anyone really cares. Yes, I was a former circus performer. It has been the most valuable skill I've added in my repertoire that helps with cybersecurity on a regular basis. I am the president of the local ISC 2 Austin chapter. Please come to our event next on the 22nd. And for those that want quick connections, LinkedIn, cards, here's how you get a hold of me. And I'll take any other questions from the floor.
So I think you mentioned that auto update is often a vector in attacks, but at the same time, a lot of software doesn't actually let you disable the auto update. So as an example, Google Chrome, it actually contains a rootkit, and it's very difficult to disable the Google Chrome rootkit that automatically auto updates it. So why is that not handled better in a better way?
Do you want the business motivation answer or the we didn't think of it answer? You have to think about the forces that were actually involved here. People weren't patching, they weren't doing. So out of that response to try to create a more fluid environment, better user experience that stays in a safer state, things like auto patch were applied, like browsers. That was one of the key vectors for browsers. Now you start looking at tool chains that are used for more sophisticated actions. We start taking those practices that, of course, my editor should always update. Of course, my IDE should always auto update all my packages. You look at the defaults for Dependabot. Sure, auto upgrade everything. No bad outcomes have ever happened from Dependabot auto updating and moving versions. It used to be a convention. That convention is now being challenged. And what's the priority? Who for the vendors that are producing some of these, where is this on their roadmap? It's only us that will push back to them and say, I need a way to do it. In your case that you brought up with Chrome, you can get the policies, you can put the GPOs in to start forcing those behaviors. But that's usually a very deep part of IT administration. You can do it in Microsoft ecosystem, the Google Workspace ecosystem. These are just, it's that intersection of depth that how many layers below do you have time to put into it? It all comes from, we built this as the default. And now we're seeing how unsafe that default and the bad outcomes that can be weaponized with it. So hopefully that addresses your question. Yes.
Yeah, so you hit on it a little bit with the pinning your dependencies and as well as Dependabot with auto update features. You didn't explicitly mention though setting package manager cooldown periods and others, sort of a newer part of it. Most of the package managers allow for having cooldown periods. So you're not grabbing the latest. It has to be in the market for 14 days before you automatically pull it down, which would prevent some of the things that have happened.
Is that the default state?
No.
So it's
In most cases, they don't have it the default state. What I'm saying is
No, no, but
setting
that-
those is a good
I
practice.
no, one, I was not aware that those settings were in the native package manager. I know PMP does have some settings on new packages, but it's that safe defaults and there's such a complex ecosystem. Knowing all those properties. So one, thank you. Now I've got one more thing to add in there, and I think it's a great one. But at the same time, the awareness of it, and I really there was a class I saw, a seminar series that was produced by MIT called The Missing Semester. Has everyone heard of it? It was, I think it's been updated a few times, but it came out maybe a decade, half a decade ago. But it talked about all the things you don't get taught as you go into a program. That chasm is widened with our complexity and velocity natures. Amount of things that people just don't know that I didn't know. And I've been researching this for a few months. Wasn't aware that setting was there. And that's, I think, the blind spot is creating one first principle, safe defaults in anything we're building. So if you're influencing product direction, hold your product teams to that challenge. How, when we put something in, how's it in a safe default? Great, we have a flag or we have a complexity. How are we making that safe for the novice to use, but powerful for the expert when they need the tool to use it? So but thank you. I'm going to go look that one up now.
So the 7 to 14 days is just what they have came up as the best way they can do in dealing with all these NPM threats because they're just monitoring and hoping it. But just like any life cycle that goes through, as long as the adversary knows what your cycle is, so it's like, hey, 14 days, great, I'll create something that's going to be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So they still haven't found a great way to detect these Shialu types of attacks via the NPMs. It's just right now the best practice that the Intel community and the vulnerability researchers have best prescribed.
Yeah, it's the living off the land, like Shiloh. It's the orchestration of our normal tools. And that's where some of the partnerships with working with your SIM team, your SOAR team, and the folks working your SOC, just start identifying those positive behaviors and abnormal behaviors, codifying, if you have agentic SOC tools, codifying them into a normal practice and an abnormal practice. That is going to change the game when we all get there. But right now, the living off the land of common tools, big vector. Sarah?
Sorry, we kind of got to wrap up here a little bit. Evan will stick around, but we're kind of running out of time here. So thanks again, Evan. He'll stick around for maybe local questions. Otherwise, we will see everybody hopefully next month. And thanks again, Evan.